And joining me now, California Assemblyman Bill Essayli. How are you? Pleasure to have you back on the program.
Thanks for having me back. We're doing great here, sunny California.
Sunny California. Okay. So let's talk about, on education. President Trump says we keep spending more, with very little results, worse results, in fact. We've seen this across the country, including in California. What is your reaction to today's actions?
I would say what we have solid proof now is there's no correlation between the amount of money you spend on education and the quality of the education you get in return. I think what the problem is, Kimberly, is the policies around education. It's these teachers unions who care more about, benefits and perks for teachers than they do about teaching the kids. It's about schools who want to indoctrinate kids and not educate kids. It's really the policies. And I'm a big believer. I would love to somehow get this money that goes to the education department and get it to parents. I'm a huge advocate of school choice because I think nobody's going to have the best interest of a child in mind more than their own parents. So let them vote with their pocketbook. If a school isn't serving their kids, then they should take that money, their tax money, and be able to go to a private school, a charter school, homeschool, whatever they want to do that they think is best for their children.
Yes, absolutely. You also have a bill to keep boys out of girls' sports. This is now a part of our education debate. Are any Democrats in Sacramento coming around to this reality?
Does Governor Newsom count? I mean, he he just went on a podcast and said he agrees with us. He agrees with us on this issue that it's not fair to let biological boys compete in girls' sports. And that's been our position in the Republican Party. And for that, we've been called bigots and everything else. So the fact that the governor has now signaled that he's in agreement, I think is a huge sign. It means that they see the writing on the wall. They know where Americans are in this issue. November was a referendum. So I'm hopeful that there'll be continued public pressure to restore the way it's always been, that school sports and locker rooms should be based on your biological sex, not someone's subjective identity.
So to me, that is the report card for the education system, showing that we're not getting it done for our students, that we're not actually providing and making sure that we are giving our children, the best. And I guess I also just am reflective about the spending priorities of Democrats, because in California, they want to spend, billions more on illegal immigrant healthcare, but not, to educate in the right way, and that the funds will be, funneled in the right way. What have you found out in your investigation, examination, analysis of this?
So California is obviously the largest state now that offers free universal healthcare to illegal immigrants, no questions asked. You can show up here today, cross the border, come to California, you will get a Medi-Cal card and have unlimited healthcare access. What we know now, Kimberly, is the numbers are much bigger than they told us they would be. Last year, they said they were going to spend about $5 billion to fund this program. And then it went up to $10 billion. And now the governor is saying that they're going to be about $6 billion, another $6 billion short just this year to pay for it. One out of every $4 being spent on Medicare right now is going to illegal immigrants. This isn't sustainable. And
That's
it's not
astonishing,
fair.
by the way.
It's astonishing, and it's not sustainable. But the governor has said he's doubling down. We said we're going to do it, and we're going to do it. And they don't care if they're going to bankrupt the state in the process. But it's not fair because it doesn't mean anything to have a Medi-Cal card, by the way. A lot of our seniors rely on this. If you can't even see a doctor or get an appointment. And that's what they're doing. They're putting an additional 2 million people have now gone onto the system. You cannot get quality access to healthcare in the state of California. They are jeopardizing our seniors, our most vulnerable. It's going to be very hard to get access to healthcare in California when they flood it with illegal immigrants.
Well, and how ripe are these programs for fraud? Because this is what I, get concerned about as a former prosecutor. And once someone is in the system, legal or illegal, do they even have the ability to register to vote, even if the law prohibits it?
We've seen massive problems with this. Obviously, the DMV now is in the business of registering voters, and we allow illegal immigrants to get a driver's license. They're supposed to segregate those files, but we've had audits now where there's been a mix-up. It's been an accident. And you know what they wrote into the law here, Kimberly? That if the DMV accidentally registers a non-citizen to vote, that person cannot be prosecuted. It's
Oh
written
my
into our
goodness.
law under state law. They are immune from prosecution if the DMV by mistake registers them to vote. So yeah,
That's
it's a big
insane.
problem.
That's insane. I don't even
That's
know
what
where
they
there's
do.
legal precedent for that, quite frankly, right, Drew? I mean, give me a break. All right, so let's talk about the LA Times. They have a news story that in California's deep blue districts, town hall meetings have become sort of venting sessions for voters fed up with Trump, Musk, and the weakness of the Democratic Party. What is driving this, unhinged rage,
Mhm.
especially in deep blue districts? And in your opinion, how does it contrast to what you're hearing in your own district?
Yeah. So here's what I know, Kimberly. Normal people don't have time to go to town hall meetings.
Hmm.
So what the left does is they flood these meetings with activists, paid activists often. I've seen this at school board meetings. They bust people in. And all the left is interested in is getting a photo shoot. It's a media, it's a photo op. They want visuals so they can play on TV and make it look like, there's all this outrage against the current administration. It's just not true. I know what my congressman's doing, a lot of people are doing, are these teletown halls, which are way better. It's more effective. You get a phone call, in the evening, and it says it invites you to ask a question to your congressman. And that's a better way to access people and get them questions answered directly. So I know there's a lot of teletown halls going on, but we're not doing theater. We're not interested in the theater so the left can show up and have some dramatic scene that they want to play on TV. That's what that's all about.
Yeah, and so you're an attorney like I am. What do you make of all these national injunctions? Is that in
Oh.
itself a form, of lawfare?
It's a big problem. Look, the judicial branch is the third branch of government. It's designed to be the weakest of the three. And what we have going on now is judges basically imposing their individual will and judgment over the presidency. The executive branch is vested in the president of the United States. We cannot have hundreds of judges throughout the state playing president. It's a big problem. And if Chief Justice Roberts does not want Congress to start impeaching judges or reining in their power, then he better get his courts under control. The Congress has a lot of power to control these courts. They can take away their ability to issue injunctions. They can rein in their funding. They can eliminate some of these lower courts. If Chief Justice Roberts does not want a constitutional confrontation with the other branches, he better get these judges under control very quickly.
Well, also, what about process, right? Because aren't there supposed to be injunction bonds that are posted under the rules of civil procedure? What can you tell us?
They are violating all kinds of precedent and rules, but they know that it will take months or years to make it up through the appellate process. This insane case where they protecting the Venezuelan terrorist organization. The judge, I've never seen this before. I'm a lawyer. He certified a class action in a couple of hours so he could cover a whole class of people. That's not how that works. Any of us who've litigated to certify a class action case, you got to go through tons of discovery and there's lots of motion work and it takes months or years to certify a class. The judge did it in hours. That's unprecedented. They're lawless. And you know what I've noticed, Kimberly? They're
What?
relying on these senior judges.
Mm.
Okay. These are senior judges. They're already at the end of their career and they're willing to go out there and take the hit for the cause. So this, to me, they're activists. It's a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, they really are. And that's a problem. I was talking to, Mike Davis about this and others that it really is a problem and it's got to get shut down because, by the way, I don't care what side you're on. Be on the side of the Constitution and justice. I don't care if you're a Democrat, you're a liberal. The rules should be the same for everyone. They should be adhered to. The law should be followed and there should be due process. And that is the bottom line. And there should not be weaponization of any justice system, any agency, any lawfare going on. And we do not need and must shut down and remove activist judges. That is the big problem here. And
Yeah,
what else
and
is
I
on?
think there should
Yeah,
be
go ahead.
emergency appeals to the Supreme Court in all these cases. You got to put this on their lap, and you got to call out Chief Justice Roberts, see if he's going to actually control that branch or not, or if we need Congress to get involved.
Yeah. And what else is on the docket in Sacramento? What do we need to know?
Yeah. Oh, it's always something up here. Honestly, Kimberly, they always come up with harebrained ideas here. They're trying to get rid of the castle doctrine that we have in California, so that way you have to first flee before you can defend yourself. There's all kinds of crazy bills up here. But you know what we're focused on right now, the Republicans? We have to change our election system. So what we're going to be laser focused on for the next few months is this ballot initiative that we're going to qualify and finally have voter ID put on the ballot in the state of California. And we believe that if the voters can decide this question, the majority overwhelmingly support voter ID. That's how we're going to change California.
Are you feeling a little bit optimistic in terms of the direction of what's going on, and that people are kind of like being more emboldened, they're more awake, and in a sense, in California about like wanting things to be in a good position, understanding that a change needs to happen, seeing the change that President Trump is bringing nationally, and wanting to embrace that change in California?
Yeah, it's twofold. I think a lot of people that have just been lifelong Democrats are finally starting to wake up a little bit and realize like what's going on here, especially with the fires in LA, I think was a huge catalyst to see how the state's been mismanaged, and there really is no Republican to blame for that. The other thing that President Trump's historic election victory has done is it's energized the conservative party, the conservative movement, and the right. Before that, I would say most of them has just felt very defeated. It's like they don't even want to get out of bed and try. But now with the President Trump's historic election, there's obviously this new renewed energy and sense of, wait, we can actually win elections and get things done, even if it's stacked against us. And that's what this voter ID initiative is all about, is it's like, look, we're not going to keep fighting or playing under the rules of the Democrat Party. We're going to change the rules in California. And I do think voter ID will have a big effect on our elections here in California, especially congressional races. We had a lot of races here, Kimberly, that were lost by just a few hundred votes. So
Wow.
if we can win these races on the margins.
Yeah, think about the impact of that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this it's so attainable. It's so attainable. What's the state, and talk about quite frankly the bold and the brave, the bold and the beautiful in the state of California about the Republican Party, and is there a path? Do you believe to work with Governor Newsom?
That's a loaded question. I would say we just elected a new chairperson, Corinne Rankins. We have a new party chair. We are much more focused on being an opposition party now. I will say that. Before, I think that the attitude was kind of like, let's go along and get along and see what we can make of this. I think those days are over. I think we have a true fighting opposition party. Whether Governor Newsom is serious or not, I think he provides us an opportunity to message to
Hmm.
people who've not traditionally been Republican voters. So when Governor Newsom embraces something like protecting girls' sports, that gives us an opportunity to go out in the community and say, look, even the governor agrees with us on this. So are the Republicans really out of the mainstream, or is it the Democrats out of the mainstream? So I'm happy to engage with the governor on these issues because I think it pits
Yeah.
elements of the Democrat Party against itself. And I think that's the biggest fallout I've seen from the Charlie Kirk interview is now the progressive Democrats in the legislature are really mad at the governor for even doing that interview and saying the things he did. So, I'm all for stoking that division within their party.